77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts, including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
Welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. From the cockpit of a Black Hawk helicopter to the halls of our nation's capital and also well beyond, our guest today has seen a lot in his nearly 3 decades of military service. His new book, Veritas Vincit, means truth prevails, and it showcases a soldier's mission of truth, leadership, and also includes faith-based insights. And joining us now to discuss all of this and more is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub. Darin, it's great to have you here, and congrats on your book.
Hey, thanks, Rita. It's definitely not something I ever saw myself doing, but enough people bothered me, so I got it done, I guess, and off to the races we go. Thank you so much for having me on.
What's your big message? What's your big takeaway?
I want this book to be read by people who are looking for a lot of different topics, from leadership to military to aviation to geopolitics, and be able to say that woven throughout the entire book, though I always bring people back to a faith-based message and grounding in everything that is going on in the world around us, because we can provide and work for and fight for liberty in this nation, and we do, and we should. But I'm a believer in the fact that only through faith in Christ can we ever achieve true liberty, and that's the hope that I think everybody needs, regardless of what's happening.
How important is faith when you're in the military? How has that helped you and also guide you through some very difficult times?
Faith has helped me not only during the military, but everything else in life that has happened, because it keeps me grounded in the fact that regardless of what's going on, that I know who made the world, who's in charge, ultimately where my destination is, and that it allows us to not have to worry about anything, because there's more than enough worry out there in the world. Social media, TV media, you name it. The stories are all over the place. There's just a lot of stuff that can drag us down, and faith has kept me grounded in the fact that I don't have to worry about that stuff, even though I'm right there in the middle of it all, trying to fight against the evil the best I can, knowing that that evil has already been overcome in the ultimate victory. But and in the military, faith also has helped me a lot, because part of what I did when I was deployed was lead Bible studies, lead different kinds of courses within the chapel and otherwise. That gave me a purpose at times when it would be very easy to disappear into a room, basically, and just make yourself not be seen or heard for a while. I didn't want to do that. So faith kept me going and kept me grounded and kept me moving towards the purpose other than just the mission in the military.
How did you become so faith-filled? Was it in your family, or what drove you towards faith in such a beautiful way?
Oh, it's part of our family genetics, I guess you could say. It's been going to the church since I was very young. It became real to me. at a vacation Bible school about 8 years old, and then has stayed with me through my entire life, through thick and thin, whether I've done it right or done it wrong or been good at it, or, we all go through our highs and lows in life. So my parents kept me going to the right places until I got to that point in my life where I made my own choice. And that was just the beginning of a process of gaining maturity through faith that I don't think you can gain outside of it.
And how has it, I guess, it helped you in some of your darkest hours? You talked about in the military where there were times where you just kind of wanted to go away, and instead it allowed you to find a place and a level of comfort. There is a lot of evil in the world. There are a lot of difficult things in the world, and there's a lot of attacks on faith in the world going on too.
Yeah, I think, first of all, those attacks and those things like that, we should expect. And from a person who's got a biblical perspective on life, evil is one of those things that you're going to have to accept the fact that it's going to exist, and it's good to fight against it, but don't ever think that it's just going to go away. And recognize the fact that there is still a hope that is greater than all of that evil. And that is true in every country, in every part of the world, that whether you're in or out of uniform, no matter what you're doing, that truth applies to everybody. That's why I picked the title for this book of Being Truth Prevails. Because no matter what's going on, that is the truth. Through faith, through Christ, and through the truths that we learn from there, we can endure anything. There are many who've gone through much worse than I ever have, and they've endured greatly because of their faith too, and I admire them. I think that's something that we can all take back with us and learn from.
When you're having a baby, there's a lot on your mind. At Northwell's Staten Island University Hospital, you can rest easy with our reimagined labor and delivery experience. Our new Grapuso Women and Newborn Center provides private suites, overnight accommodations for a loved one, and a top-level NICU. All powered by the team that cares for the most moms and babies in New York. It's care made for Staten Island and made for you. Visit northwell.edu/newbaby. Staten Island University Hospital. Raise health.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
What if Black Friday deals were available in the summer? Don't miss week-long doorbusters at Best Buy during Black Friday in July. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
How much do you think faith is involved in the military? I mean, did you find a lot of brothers and sisters in Christ when you were in the military? I guess there's no atheists in the foxhole, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how quick people turn towards faith when they realize that there is no other foundation that they can truly count on. And I've seen a lot of how faith is throughout the military, and whether it be Protestant, Catholic, Lutheran, whatever, it's all there, and it's just part of the culture, and it needs to stay part of the culture, despite those segments of the society that are coming after any kind of church in the military as if that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing, and I will tell you what's probably some of the most rewarding experiences are, you go to Afghanistan, and in my case, for one of the deployments, and you spend, say, up to 9 months doing all the things that the military requires of you night vision goggle flights into dust, heavy LZs, and all these kinds of things that you risk your life every single time. But you get to come back, and the next day, you're baptizing a soldier in a kiddie pool who just came to know Christ, who was an atheist the day before. And it took 9 months to get them to make that decision on their own. And it's part of the culture. It should never leave the military.
Yeah, doesn't it provide a grounding and provide a basis and help you get through really some very difficult times, as there are a lot of hot spots around the globe, especially right now?
It does. I honestly, I don't understand. I think it's a challenge for someone who is faith-based to understand how people who aren't can tolerate or put up with a lot of the things they see. It's difficult to explain the world without having an understanding of what truly drives it from the perspective of evil, from the perspective of good, and all points in between. I think it just comes down to the fact that if you have a foundation to stand on that doesn't move, the rest of the world can rock and roll all around you in any direction. But your stability, you're anchored there because of your faith, and you don't move. You weather every storm. That's extremely important, and I think that needs to be not only in the military, of course. I think it should be throughout the nation again, as it was when we started.
How much did you find that other soldiers relied on you because they saw your steadfast faith? That had to be an inspiration to them.
I think it happened probably more than I realized, just because of the leadership positions I was in regardless. But I think the best story that ever happened to me in this regards was I was an executive officer for an aviation task force in Kandahar, Afghanistan. I'd been teaching biblical apologetics since the day we arrived, every week, basically. And a group of soldiers of all kinds of ranks came to my door when I was out once and knocked on it. And the guy who was across the hall from me told me they were asking for the chaplain. And I'm not a chaplain, but I am a minister. But to me, that was the greatest thing ever, that these soldiers, regardless, I'm a major, and they're various junior enlisted ranks, and it didn't bother them at all. They come to my office and say, "Hey, where is he? We want to talk to him."
That's great. That is fantastic. Also, by the way, you think about it in Afghanistan, how tough it is. Often those who are practicing faith come under attack. I mean, women are coming under attack. I mean, everybody, Christians coming under attack. I feel like it really tested faith often, right? Being in a place like that.
It does. It tests your individual faith, and everybody's different. So what that test looks like, that was different for me than those around me. But oftentimes what's also interesting is that you get a lot of these military members and DOD civilians and all these people who basically go over there as part of this mission, and they become exposed to a culture and a world that shocks them for a variety of reasons. The things they can do to each other, things they can do to children, things they can do to women, what it really means to be third world. And it opens up their eyes to the point where they realize they've been really blessed. And our worst day in the United States is better than the best day in many countries still around the world. And it shows why we're such a beacon of hope to so many people. But, part of that beacon is our faith-based history and how our nation was formed. So if we can take those lessons, I think, from those nations and bring them home and tell Americans, say, hey, listen, we're going to fight, we're going to do all kinds of things, but we're still America. We do hard things, we do great things because we can, and we have been to the other side and we've seen what evil really looks like and what it can do to a nation. And we have to avoid going that direction.
Would you like to see, especially some of these protesters, many often young kids at these college campuses, who don't realize, to your point, how good they have it in this country and how lucky they are to be Americans? I always say it would be great, Darin, if we could plop them into somewhere like in Afghanistan or somewhere, even for a few hours or a few days, so they could see exactly how lucky we are and how they have the right to be able to protest if it's peaceful.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. As much as I think these No Kings rallies and whatever label they're going to put them on them this week are ridiculous in their conclusions and their assumptions. If they're peaceful, knock yourself out. I would love to be able to I'd love to be able to pick them up in mass and take them all over to stick them in the middle of Afghanistan somewhere and say, okay, what does your reality look like now compared to this? You have it great. And what you're doing is actually trying to tear it down and make it look more like an Afghanistan than what the United States is and can remain if we stay focused on the things that are important.
And Darin, walk us through your military career, too. Tell everybody a little bit about your experiences, sort of where you started, and you brought up Afghanistan, but talk about sort of your route to the military of the nearly 3 decades.
Absolutely. Well, we're one of those multi-family military. So my grandfather served in World War II in the Philippines. My dad did 32 years in the Army. My brother did 28 years in the Air Force, recently retired. I did 28 years in the Army, recently retired. I started out enlisted in the infantry, came back to Montana, and thought I was going to go into the business world. That was not where I was supposed to be. That became clear. Mm-hmm. And got an ROTC scholarship. Went through the program, became an aviation officer, and then flew Black Hawks for over 20 years of my career. Finished out by commanding a battalion in Fort Carson, Colorado. But in between all of that, there was a trip to North Africa right after 9/11. There was a trip to fly the DMZ between North and South Korea back in 98. And then 4 trips to Afghanistan, and then my final journey, I guess you could say, was commanding multiple task forces across Eastern Europe, from Latvia down to Turkey and over into Germany, Bulgaria, Romania, Poland. And mixed in there was where I learned the geopolitics stuff even more and became a kind of a global strategist for diplomacy, military, and economics, and you name it. So that's what kind of took me onto TV after the military, but long and short, that's the career. The entire time, of course, my gorgeous bride, who celebrates our 31st anniversary alongside me tomorrow, and our wonderful 2 kids who are out doing what grown kids do, making the world a better place, stuck through the entire thing, regardless of whether I was home or not. And I feel blessed for them.
By the way, I'm so glad you talked about family, too, because the military family serves so much. You brought up North Africa. What was that like after 9/11? And how do you think 9/11 really just reshaped the world?
It was interesting because 9/11 happens, and then 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in the desert in Egypt. And this is at a time when communications were not what they are now. One phone for 500 people, no internet, things like that. So the rumors were flying back home of where we actually were, and to include to the point where we started bombing Afghanistan while I was in Egypt. And so people back here thought we were actually part of the Afghanistan mission, which we weren't. But everybody was on edge. Not only the U.S. forces, but the entire Egyptian military. We were pilots and flying aircraft, so you're flying around with all these anti-aircraft systems walking onto you, tracking you, following you every single move. And so it was quite eye-opening to see a little bit about how you could sense the world had changed from an environment where you could do that kind of stuff without any concerns to you couldn't move hardly without having multiple controls and accountability of systems and all kinds of stuff put on you. But I think the world changed in a way that the Middle East became such a hyper focus that we forgot about a lot of it, and we're coming back to realizing what the Pacific threat is, what's going on in Europe. But we were so focused on the Middle East that was it, and there was the potential to do some good. We were never going to change Afghanistan's overall culture, and so that's unfortunate. But there are negatives too. Things like the Patriot Act got enacted and it shouldn't have been, and it should be repealed just because of its invasion of privacy and a variety of things. But just in general, the idea of terrorism as a target of the U.S. military and our coalition allies made it so we could spread conflict globally in an attempt to eradicate an idea, which makes everything hard to do because you're never going to completely eradicate something like an idea. And so you've largely erased borders and turned this into a war against an idea and gangs and tribes that adopt those ideas. In some extent, that makes war almost seem like a perpetual thing anymore. And that part's unfortunate.
At LinkedIn, we know hiring is a big deal for your small business. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. LinkedIn uses data that you can't find anywhere else to give you the best candidates, all so you can feel confident you're hiring the best person for the job. And even a little hiring bliss. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Hey, I'm Mark Ronson.
And I'm Ray.
To celebrate 150 years of Audemars Piguet, we've teamed up to create something timeless.
A tribute to legacy, rhythm, and craft, with a very special connection at its heart.
A soundscape from two cities, two perspectives, and one shared vision.
Introducing our brand new song, Suzanne.
Hi, this is Javon, your Blinds.com design consultant.
Oh, wow. A real person.
Yep. I'm here to help with everything from selecting the perfect window treatments to...
Well, I've got a complicated project.
No problem. I can even help schedule a professional measure and install. We can also send you samples fast and free.
I just might have to do more.
Whatever you need.
So the first room we're looking at is for...
Shop Blinds.com now and save up to 40% site-wide. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Finally, you've been doing, obviously you do a lot of media. Do you feel that the public understands these layers and also understands the sacrifice of our military?
There's a segment that does, and they'll never forget. But that segment isn't very big. There's a lot of people that just kind of assume the military is doing what the military does, and they don't really pay attention to what it means and what it takes to do it. After 20 years of nonstop conflict, basically, during the Iraq-Afghanistan wars, basically, we came to a conclusion at a point that we were a military at war and not a nation at war. And I would say that is something that is critical for America, every American to understand, is that when we do something like go to war against another nation at that scale, it's important that the entire nation support it. You may not necessarily agree with the conflict and the reasons why you're doing it, but that's an argument that you need to have with politicians in America. The military got very tired about being overseas in constant conflict, and most of America just continued on with its life, like nothing had changed. That's not healthy for a society, because that looks a lot like Rome. Yeah, back in the day when the army went to war and the nation just went to work like nothing happened. That's one of the things I think we need to bridge that divide again even more.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, listen, everybody, be sure to subscribe and share this really powerful and inspiring and revealing podcast. And Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, my friend, and also the author of a really powerful new book. Everybody, be sure to check it out, Veritas Vincit. And it means truth prevails. It's a soldier's perspective on truth, faith, family, and freedom. And it is fantastic and obviously so important on so many levels, and also just, I think, insightful and beautiful on so many levels, too, as well. It's really great to have you here, and thank you for your incredible service. And also thank you for this great inspiration and joining us here on the podcast, too, Darin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. It's always a pleasure to join you.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
.77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.